Hi everyone, welcome back. In this video, we're going to make another cover. So this will be our third video in the Autumn Memories journal kit. The first two videos, if you haven't watched those, you can go back and watch those. We made these fabric journal covers and embellished the covers. And so we use the same process for both of these. In this video, we're going to do a little bit different of a process. I think I already talked about it in the first video. But I'm going to show you how to do it in this one. We're going to be making kind of a patchwork, piecework, scrappy collage type journal cover. In this one, we're going to use just a little bit different of a process. And the reason I already have one done is because I accidentally filmed this one in slow-mo without any sound. So I figured instead of trying to do all that video editing and do a voiceover, we would just start over and do it from scratch. So that's what we're going to do. And in fact, I'm doing this on my phone because I thought I am just done piddling with that camera. So anyway, I'll have a lot of practice at this anyway. Okay, so what I have here is 2 pieces of needled cotton batting. So I have 2 of them. I'll show you what I've used. This is the Warm and Natural needle punched cotton batting. So it's an all natural cotton needle punched, and so it's a nice and thin cotton batting, but it's an off-white color. So that's nice for doing doing journal covers that are not in the bright white. And then also I've used in the past this one, the Pellon brand Wrap and Zap, 100% natural cotton batting. It's kind of like the same thing, only it's, it says it's microwavable. It's for doing like baked potato bags. You put your baked potato in and put it in the microwave. But it's a nice thin cotton batting as well, off-white, and they're just so soft, and I like using them for journal covers. Okay, so I have 2 of them pre-cut for us. I went ahead and cut them, and they are 14 inches wide by 9 inches tall. And if you can remember why, if you watched the first 2 videos before this one, that is because our cover for our journal, for an 8.5 by 11 letter size sheet of paper folded in half, this would be the size we would want for that type of journal. So that way I can have a 6-inch cover, a 2-inch spine, and a 6-inch cover. So if you want to do a smaller size, you're going to need to adjust your measurements. If you want a thinner spine, and just adjust your measurements for that. But this particular journal is going to have a 6-inch front cover, a 2-inch spine, 6-inch back cover. Okay, so that gives me 14 inches. And I'm going with 9 inches because my paper is 8.5 inches tall. And that gives me about 1/4 of an inch at the top and 1/4 of an inch at the bottom for my cover to stick out past my papers. So I have 2 of those, cotton batting, 14 by 9. Okay, I have also cut 2 pieces of fabric. So I want an inner fabric that coordinates with whatever I'm doing on the outside. And then I've cut another piece of fabric that's just a plain cotton. Okay. All right, so right now I'm going to take my plain cotton fabric. I'm going to set my inner fabric off to the side. And I'm going to take one of my cotton battings, and I'm going to set the other one off to the side with my inner piece. Okay, I'm going to center my batting on my fabric. Now, if you notice, when I cut my fabric, I cut it a little bit bigger around all the edges, okay, to give me some wiggle room. So after I'm done sewing through all of this and things have wiggled around a little bit, then I can trim it flush around the edges. And I'll probably trim it with my pinking shears so that it won't fray. So that is centered. And now I'm just going to flip it over so that my cotton batting's on the back side and my cotton fabric is on the top. Okay. Now, my fabrics that I had done in the other two journals that match the digital kit that I'm going to be using is this blue and this orange and this flowered print right here. So that's what I'm going to be using. Here you can see that fabric a little bit more. That's what I'm going to be using to do my patchwork cover, as well as some extras of this white fabric. And so I've cut a bunch of squares in the coordinating blue, or that orange brown color, the white, and this color. So I've cut a bunch of random fabric pieces, and now I'm just going to kind of lay them out on my fabric here in a patchwork type collage. No rhyme or reason. We just kind of want to spread the color around. Okay, so just want a little bit of, and we may need to move them around if you don't like where some of them are at. You may need to trim them down or cut a bigger one if you think it needs it. Okay. So I'm just going to keep doing this process until I have covered the entire surface of this and I'm happy with my results. Okay, so I'm going to finish doing that off camera and then I'll come right back and show you what I've done. Okay, so that's what I've come up with. Just kind of placing it around, trying to spread the color throughout. I want it to look very scrappy, very collage, very very piecework. So now what I want to do is pin these down so that they don't go anywhere. If you don't want to sew, I guess you could have glued all of these on in place. Just being very careful not to have your glue soak through. You could also do some type of iron-on adhesive. I'm not a seamstress. I know there are products out there that you can iron down to keep things from moving while you sew it, but I'm just going to put some pins in it here and there, and I'll run it through my sewing machine. So my plan is to, and it takes a while, it takes a good bit, but my plan is to go around the inside, just inside each one of these little pieces, and just kind of outline each of the pieces. I'll show you what I did on this one. So I'm just stitching just inside, and it's not perfect. It's not perfectly straight. That's the look I was going for. And so in doing that, I stitched all of them down, and so they're not going anywhere. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to finish pinning this, and then I will run it through my sewing machine, sewing around all the little parts and pieces, and then I will come back and show you the next step, okay? Okay, all right, so that's everything all sewn. Actually, I have it upside down. And I've gone around all of the insides of all of them. So let me flip it over here, and you'll see that I am, hanging out over the cotton batting. So, and that's fine. That's what I planned on. So what I'm going to do is I need to trim around the outside edges all the way around, and I will finish doing that off camera. So, but that's the general idea. I'm going to go all the way around the edge, and I'm just going to leave just a smidge past my cotton batting. Okay. All right. So I'm going to finish cutting that off camera. Then the next thing I want to do is bring in my other piece of cotton batting that I had cut and my interior fabric for the inside of my journal. And here, let me just flip it over. Just going to center that in my fabric. Remember, I cut my fabric just a smidge bigger than my cotton batting all the way around. It gives me a little wiggle room while I'm sewing. Okay, and so I'd like for the inside of my journal to have kind of a quilted look. That's what I did on this one. So the way I did that was on my ruler here. I took my ruler. This happens to be a 2-inch ruler. And I can draw lines on here because this isn't going to show. It's going to be on the inside. Just laid my ruler down at an angle and drew on both sides of my ruler, giving myself some guidelines to use in my stitching when I go through the sewing machine. When I put it through the sewing machine, then I can know exactly where I want to stitch. You don't have to do this part. I just think it adds a neat look. I may or may not even sew that one down there. Okay. And then, so I'm at that angle. Let's go about like that. Okay, I'm just going to do the same thing, only going this direction. My ruler is not quite long enough. Okay. I'm just going to finish stitching my lines. Marking my lines, and then I'm going to take this over to my sewing machine, and I'm just going to run a straight stitch along all of my lines, okay? All right, I'm going to do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I trimmed around all the edges that I was going to do, and then I finished the stitching on the inside, did the crisscross pattern like we marked out, and I trimmed around the edges of it and made everything just a tiny bit bigger than my cotton batting, okay? So now, before we stitch these together, I would like to make it just a little bit stiffer. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to do this part. You can have a nice floppy journal cover if you want to. Sometimes I like to do that. I just don't want to on this particular one. So I need something to give it a little bit of reinforcement on the inside. So what I'm going to do now is I'm using a file folder. This is just an old file folder that's already been used for something. I think I picked these up somewhere where they were free. I don't remember. Anyway, I think a historical society had used them. So I've already marked this. I want my file folder to be a little bit on the inside of my cover. I don't want it to run all the way to the very edge, because its only purpose really is to kind of stiffen up my cover a little bit. So I really don't need it to run to the edge. So I've marked it where I want to cut it. And I believe with my cover being 9 inches, I marked this at 8. Yes, I marked that at 8, so I'm going to cut that off. Okay, and then the nice thing about using a file folder, you could use cardstock if you want to, but you know, if you're making a full-size journal cover like I am, and you're using cardstock, the cardstock may not be big enough, and then you've got to use 2 pieces. So I like file folders. You can get it all done in 1 piece. You could also use a fabric stabilizer like we did in the first couple of videos where we put a fabric stabilizer between our layers. So that works as well. This just ends up being a, well, you can hear it. It sounds very, very stiff, and it's a different type of feeling. This will be a little bit more fluffier feeling because you've got cotton batting, and it'll have a little bit more flexibility. File folder is a little less rigid than that stabilizer I used. You could also use a less stiff fabric stabilizer as well. Okay, but I'm going to use a file folder. So I already have a crease right here. Remember, we said our spine was going to be 2 inches. So I know for a fact that my ruler this ruler is 2 inches wide. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and, so there's the one side of my spine already folded. I'm going to go ahead and fold this up. I could have marked it and then just folded it along the line, but I know my folder or my ruler is already 2 inches, so. Okay, so that gives us a 2-inch spine. And then I know that I need 6 inches in the front and 6 inches, well, okay, let me back up a minute. My finished cover is 6 inches. My stiffener part doesn't need to go all the way to the edge, so I'm going to go about 5.5, and then I'm going to cut it off. So about 5.5. Let me run this over here to my paper trimmer. Okay, so that gives me my front. Hopefully I cut that right. Let me double check. It's a little bit shorter than 5.5, but it will be just fine. Okay, and then I need to be 5.5 from this fold. So five and a half. I'm going to mark it up here just in case. 5.5, and I'm going to cut that off of my paper trimmer. Okay, so now I've got a 2-inch spine and a front and a back cover, and it should center up inside my journal cover just great, just like that. Okay, all right, so that's going to go there. Let me make sure yeah, this is the part I wanted on the front. So this is going to go here on the back side. Now, before I sew these together, I also would like to have a pocket over here. So I'm going to cut a little bit of coordinating fabric. Slide this out of the way. And I'm just going to use my pinking shears so it doesn't fray. And I'm going to go about 6 inches high. Sorry, I bumped the camera there. I'm going to go just about 6 inches high. Okay. And by 4 inches. Okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just... Okay, now I went 6 inches high because I actually want a 4x4 pocket. The top 2 inches, right about there, I'm just going to fold over. So that way when my pocket is sewn on, I don't have a rough edge up at the top where I'm sliding things in and out of the pocket. I've got a nice reinforced double thickness of fabric. So that's why I cut it 6 inches tall so I could fold over 2 of the inches. So I'm 4 inches wide, and now I'm 4 inches tall with 2 inches folded over in the back. Okay, and then I would like to have a little decorative strip. That's not quite long enough. That one's not quite long enough. I'll just cut one off of this. I want a little decorative strip of fabric. Up here at the top. And so before I sew this onto my cover, I am going to run a stitch around, well actually I'm just going to do across the top and across the bottom. and then I will come right back and then I'll pin it onto my cover. Okay, now let's pin it to the front, and I need to get an idea of where my cover, where my spine is. Let's see if I can just hold it. Yeah, there we go. That's where my spine is. Okay. That helps me see when I have my cover open on my journal where I'm going to have the pocket. So that's good enough. Okay. I'm just going to pin this in place only on the back. I'll get in there. There we go. Really dull stick pin. Okay, I need to pin it over here. I'm going to run this through my sewing machine, just the back layer. Okay, I'm going to go down, across the bottom, and back up. Okay. Okay, so I like the little white patch there because it gives me a place to decorate. Like, I may end up putting something small like that on the pocket to go with the insides, which is going to be the Autumn Memories kit that's in my shop. So that's what I'm going to be using to fill the journal. So let's get this back in place. All right, put this back in place. Line up my edges pretty close. They're not going to be perfect because I wasn't perfect when I was sewing or constructing this. And I'm just going to pin along the outside edges to keep my file folder from falling out while I'm sewing. And it's nice because I'm just going to sew along the edges about 1/4 to maybe 3/8 of an inch inside. And I should have cut my file folder small enough that I'm not sewing also through it. Not that it matters. It's just one less layer to have to sew through. So I'm just going to pin around the edges to hold everything in place. Ow, boy. Oh, also, I want to put ties in this journal. So let's see. Here we go. So I have some sari silk. This is the same sari silk I've used on the other journals. It's a nice orange tan color. It matches the little flowers perfectly. But you could also use some nice trimmings like this, or some ribbon, or you don't have to put a tie on at all. But I am going to those are long. Yeah, those should be plenty long enough. I am going to tuck these in at about the halfway. That looks pretty close to halfway to me. I'm going to tuck that inside and go ahead and pin it into place. Okay, and one on the other side. Let's see, that one's got a little green spot on it, which is okay, but I'll use it for something else. That's about halfway. Tuck that inside. And go ahead and pin that in place. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and finish pinning this all around the edges, And then I'm going to sew all around the edge with my sewing machine. Like I said, about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch or so. Just something to hold it all together along the outside edges. And then I will come back and show you the finished product. Alrighty, that's it. We are done. So that is 3 journal covers we have made together. So in the next videos, I guess, I'm going to start getting pages ready to go on the insides of one of these. I'm not going to build all 3 of them on camera. I'll just build one of them on camera. But anyway, that is it. That's our journal cover. So isn't it cute? It's kind of very rustic and just, yeah, it kind of reminds you of a patchwork quilt. Little pocket on the inside you can decorate with. Before you sew the top and the reverse side together, you could have added anything to the front you wanted to, like a picture, you know, like we did on the other 2. You could have put a picture here, or added some lace or other trimmings. Oops, I am so sorry, banging the camera again. You could have added some trimmings or lace or ribbon to the front, whatever you want to add on there. I wanted to kind of keep this one a little bit plain and simple. So that's that. And it's not perfect, but I don't want it to be perfect. So that's the charm of it. So anyway, that's that. I will see you guys in the next videos. I also have a haul video up from a recent trip to the thrift shop and antique store. So if you haven't watched that, feel free to go back and watch that. I put timestamps in the description box of that video. So if you're just interested in reading the letters with me, you can go in the description box and find the timestamps to just read the letters with me. But I found some interesting things and had fun. So that's that. I will see you guys next time. Take care. Happy crafting. Bye.